We're working on this John Deere 350g today, and I just thought I'd show you a few little highlights. So I started off, these holes are pretty bad worn, but I had some 115 millimeter, I think I told you in one of the last videos, these are PVC pipe flanges. I buy them at Menards, and they're just the right sizes. If you get the 2-inch size, just the right size to machine out to fit the bar. Like I machine them to be a fairly close fit on the bar, and then just turn the outside to whatever bore dimension I need. So they got me close, but I don't dare just trust that. And then I do not trust lineup cones at all. I very rarely use them anymore if there's any wear on the edges of the hole. Honestly, I highly prefer this method. Like, if the hole's not hurt, that's better. It's better in practically every circumstance I can think of. I mounted this bar in here, got these in place, but because of the wear in the hole, it's kind of oval shaped, so they were actually pretty snug this way, but had some available play that way. So then what I've done is this next hole up has virtually no wear in it, and it's got a set of bushings in there that are in really nice shape. And it's a weird situation where the cone appears to be contacting the bushing and the outside of the bore just about simultaneously. So I've set up that bar, and then I just start off pulling some tape measurements between, I'll hook on the keyway on one down to the next one, and you can really split some pretty good hairs that way. Because remember, like that happens to be a 4-foot bar, while the stick's less than 2 foot wide. So let's say that my measurement is off by 10 thousandths out here. You're more than cutting that in half over the width. But anyways, that kind of gives me a starting point, though, for how good or how bad it is. This one, amazingly, is looking dead on. Now, the next thing I'm going to do, though, is that just tells me how parallel are the bars, and I want to know if they're lying in the same plane or not. So I'm going to get out my digital level and start checking back and forth between the bars with a digital level. So that's what we'll bring you back and show you that next. All right, so this is a Digipass DWL 1300XY. And I'm going to set it up here to start with. I'm getting it leveled side to side. And then the beauty of the digital level is then I can zero it on that bar. And then move down here to this one. We're within 0.03 degrees of being the same. My experience is we're not fighting with that. It's astoundingly close. I'd have to do the math on that, but that's very, very close. Pretty darn close. Now, if you don't have handy-dandy digital level, what I have done too is get back, and you can do a pretty good job of sighting across your bars. You either got to get crouched down low or get up high and start sighting across the two bars and just comparing visually the intersection line between the two. And you can do a pretty good job actually of nailing some numbers down that way too. Basically showing you guys the options that you've got. So this is something that I created on a job a few months back and showed. So these are a couple of very precisely machined rings with dowel pins in them to match the width of the key slot in these bars. And what I've done is drilled them, reamed them, and inserted, these are pieces of Thompson rail is what these are that I've got in here. So hardened and ground precision rail. And what I'm doing here right now is I slide these on side by side, and the idea is that I can check for any discrepancies. So what I'm doing here is we've already proven that these bars are pretty close, but I want to verify that these both touch off at the same time, just reaffirm that nothing has got tweaked in them. By putting them close together, even if these bars were quite a ways off from each other, the amount that they'd be off in that distance would be minimal. So now I can bring this down to this end of the bar. Yeah, we're going to tweak her a little bit because that definitely is showing, it's a more graphic representation of the discrepancy I've got going. At any rate, we're going to go ahead and start tweaking this thing around until we get her zeroed into where I think it ought to be. So you can do a pretty doggone accurate job of measuring when you've got a good fine machinist scale like this. So like right there, I'm measuring to the, sharp edge of the end of the boring bar here. And I've got 22 5/8 right on the nose. I'm wanting to, now that I've done my initial inspections, I want to see if I've got any other. So it's interesting, this appears to be right on the money this direction, which is kind of surprising there. So the only other possible thing that I can think of that would throw an inaccuracy, if you want to call it that, into this system would be if I have, if this bar is twisted, you know, so that my keyway isn't straight, because I'm indexing off from the keyway, but seems doubtful. I'm just going to say seems doubtful. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust it until this tells me I'm zeroed, and then I'm going to come back and double check it with the precision level, or say precision level, the digital level. I'm questioning the precisionness of it at the moment, but the digital level. So what this is saying is that either this side needs to go down a bit or this side needs to come up a bit. Take your pick. We're going to just come an even amount there and here in the hopes of not screwing up the distance between them too much. I am definitely ending up off center a bit right now, so at least relative to the somewhat worn hole. Because I'm going to work on coming up with this side a bit now. Give it half a turn, half a turn. Oh, we are getting much closer on this, I can tell you that already. Getting very close there. Let me see what I'm showing for measurement here once. And I'm not awful here, it's just that I'm off by about 1/16 of an inch relative to that hole, but I don't trust the hole, so, and it's got a bunch of wear in it. The wear could have gone any direction, so the hole is not trustworthy to start with. So I still need this to drop a bit or that to come up a bit. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of tweaking this way. We are dumb close. It's still hitting that rod before it hits this one, but it is so close that I would definitely live with that if I got this other number dialed in where I want it. That is darn close. All right, time to put the digital level on this now and just see what it says. Because one thing that occurred to me here is I was having trouble. That's part of why I flipped this bar over, is I was on that keyway before, and depending on how the edge of the keyway got deburred and stuff, it could throw me off. So what I'm doing is I can switch this digital level between showing level this way and level this way, and I start off with it leveling this way so that I know I'm on the crown. Otherwise you can get some really crazy parallax going. My suspicion here is that I've got a twist in that bar. What I want to do is I have another boring bar. I'm going to bring it in here and insert it in here and just see once if it agrees with this one or not. Alright, there's the other bar. So these, by the way, I guess I didn't mention this, both of these bars that we're playing with here are factory Climax bars. These are not ones that I made. So that's interesting. This bar agrees almost perfectly with the other bar as far as what it says is going on here. I don't know what to make of that, guys. I'm not quite sure what to believe at this point, because it's possible that all Climax bars, you know, depending on how they machine them, have the same twist. I think I went to the bottom of this bad enough that I think we're going to set up. The only thing that I've got that's a very long straight edge, if I could call it that, is my boring mill table. I think what I'm going to do is take the other bar, since it's out of there, and set it in one of the T-slots, and then get up there with a height gauge and start doing some checks on the bar itself and the keyway. I'll bring you along for the party. So what I've got here is a tenths reading stair indicator. So the first thing I want to see, because I'm just laying in the T-slot, is I want to see, you know, the T-slot's got dents and dings. Am I getting the same measurement end to end? Okay, so I am 1/10, or no, I'm 1/1000th lower on this end, which I'm okay with that. I just want to know that before I start taking any real measurement. So I'm going to write that on here so that we can take that into consideration. So -0.001, write that right on it. Now what we can do is get this thing reset down to keyway height here. Alright, so we're good enough for our purposes, so we're going to zero it in the middle of the key slot just so we got a consistent spot to pick here. Very, very curious to see what this shows now. That was showing that it was about 4 thousandths high here. I want to zero it and go back the other way now. But then we also have to do the math on my... Okay, there I'm zeroed. So we got to go back to this end. It's starting to look like the keyway is not so accurate on a Climax boring bar. Well, that's disappointing. I'm kind of curious how or why Climax's bars have that discrepancy. And I think going forward, I really like the idea of being able to use those alignment bars. I think what I'm going to be doing is building myself a precision bar to go with them that I use just for setup. Because I can't trust these bars. And I've thought of doing that before, just for the sake of having good, reliable stuff, making myself a set of bars. What I've been thinking about using, actually, is a set of hollow bars, because you can get hollow core chrome rod. Some hydraulic cylinders have, hollow rods on them, and if I could get a couple chunks of that, I think that would work pretty good, because it'd make them light and easy to handle, easier for setup. I'm gonna do that. I may consider, drilling and pinning these, having a removable draw pin that pins them to the bar exactly on location. All right, so it occurred to me after all of that measuring that there's a really straightforward way to check this out a bit, and that is to get some parallels, throw them on the table, and see which one touches first. So that's what we're going to do. So actually, what's about right here is a 1, 2, 3 block. Now to think about it, we will just set us a 1, 2, 3 block on each end of the table here. Lever that up a bit. So, yep. We're seeing exactly the same thing that we were witnessing. I don't know if you guys can see that from your angle, but I'll move you around here and give you another vantage point. So, you can see this here, like right now, just the weight of gravity has it all settling in, but come down until this one touches, and you can see it just made contact, and I've got something around 1/8 of an inch floating on that other one when this one is touching. So anyway, that agrees 100% with everything that my math said and that I was seeing over here, which is that those bars, apparently the keyway is cut in them. I don't for an instant, or I say keyway's cut in, keyway's cut in on a helix, or possibly isn't even cut in square to the bar. I'm not sure how they did it back at the Climax plant, but they didn't bother to keep that keyway true, I guess is how I'd put it. At any rate, we're going to go back to lining this thing up, truing it up the way that I've always done in the past, which is with digital level. So we're here working on this 350 now. See, I've been welding a while. I've set up, bored 50 on a side over through the bore, and now I'm building up the faces, and then I'll run the bore welder in the bore. But figured I'd let you see a little bit of this mind-numbing process. Alright, about all we're going to do until we've done a little cutting on it. It's a real bummer to spend a whole bunch of time putting material on it. The further you go, the harder it is to tell where flat is at. And you end up putting weld where you don't need it and leaving it where you did, and it just better off to eventually just call it quits. So. All right, we are going to throw one of my ratty old blankets over this. What I'm paranoid of is throwing sparks into the windings in my boring head. I can spray anti-spray or anti-spatter all over this stuff and protect it. Do a pretty good job of that, but I cannot prevent it from throwing spatter inside the motor unless I throw that on there. So. Howdy Wiggles, you got a wood delivery for me?
What?
Got a firewood delivery for me?
No, I was actually going to ask if you need some firewood.
Yes, sir. Load me up.
Okay.
Try and get the really dead dry stuff if you can. Alright. I believe that's about enough of that. Whew. So, she ain't beautiful, but she's got some material back on her and looks squarish. Trying to build up this front edge, it was wore off way more there and there, so I've intentionally put a bunch of material on that. We'll see what she looks like when we get to facing on it. Alright, well, we have got the bore welding all done, hopefully have the face welding all done, and now it's time to set up and do some cutting and carving on this thing. We're going to get everything in place here and then set the facing tool up. So we'll get you guys back here when we got something to show. Alright, well, it is officially time to do some facing. Yeah, that was not so good. We just busticated the tip. Darn. Oh yeah, that we're definitely going and getting a new tool. Alrighty. Here we are, getting the tool reset and backing off depth cut. So what happened to me is the buildup was heavier and heavier as I was coming across. And there at the peaks, I was probably cutting close to 100 thou, and it just won't do that. I had somebody ask on the last video doing this, and I think I just do it whatever the tool feels like it'll take. There's no way to measure without putting a dial indicator on the bar how much you're traveling over with this thing, and I never bother to. But I would say probably 50 thousandths depth of cut is about the limit of what this setup likes. So all right. So there's that. Reset the depth of cut over to where I had left off when it crashed. It's looking pretty good though. I think we'll mostly get this to clean up. Trashed another friggin' tool bit. Just absolutely annihilated it. Man, that pisses me off. Really didn't think I was doing anything that radical there, but obviously the tool disagrees with me. I think we shifted the tool over on the bar when we crashed that time. We have to do something about that. So that won't be good. I think we're gonna go grind this one back and keep using it. All right, well, let's have another go at wrecking stuff. All right, so what I've decided I'm gonna do here is set up on the end of the bar with a dial indicator, zero it out, and we're gonna go ahead and try to take, we're gonna go with 25 thousandths as being my target. Double check, make sure I didn't trash the tool on that pass. Yeah, it looks good. See how she likes that once. I haven't traditionally bothered to measure, but we're gonna try that once. I'm tired of trashing tools here, and the best way to not trash tools is find out how much she comfortably handles and do that. So that's what we're up to here. Apparently we just lost the edge of our tool because all of a sudden stepped over and was not cutting it even remotely properly anymore. Probably what happened is I had a hunk of carbide that was embedded in the face from one of the previous crashes. That's a bummer. We'll have to fix the tool and go back at it. Alright, I'm a bit gun shy now, so I've backed it off to 20 thousandths depth of cut. We'll see what that does. Appears to have been much happier with that. The first time we've made it all the way through without total destruction on my tooling. So there is that one faced off. This outside is a bear, just fights you tooth and nail. wrecked more tooling, but I've got down there, it's got some nasty burrs and stuff on it. I'll have to go around there and buff that up with a flap wheel, but basically it's done. So I'm getting ready to flip this whole setup around because the facing head I've got can only be used because of the direction it's designed to rotate on the opposite end from the power head. So I got to flip this all around, face this side off, and then we're ready to go to work on the bores. But it's getting late, it's about 8 o'clock, but I'm having to work with the door open because this machine's way too big to fit in here. So honestly, I think we're going to run Wiggles home, and then I'm going to come back here and go back at it tonight and see if we can get her licked. It's supposed to start raining and be 38 degrees tomorrow. So right now it's still in the 40s, so we're going to keep at it. All right, well, it's about 11:30. This side is completely done, and I'm on what should be my last roughing pass on that side. So we're getting close. We're about to set it